Do you agree with this or not? That whenever it is charged on us, we are supposed to pay the liabilities. Yes. So that is the form of direct tax. You have seen there was an assessee who has been charged from different heads. There were 5 heads. And if they have income from all the heads, all the income to be clubbed together, we used to get as a gross total income, and we used to compute their taxable liability, and we used to make the payment of, or we used to compute uh, the total tax liability, and accordingly they are liable to pay to the government. That was direct tax structure. Whereas in indirect tax system, as name specifying, it is indirectly paid to the government, not directly. It is indirectly paid to the government. So whenever you are paying, you will not realize. Okay, and there we have seen also indirect tax. And the second thing what just now we had discussed, that indirect tax you cannot shift the burden, whereas in indirect tax regime you can shift the burden. So suppose it will be imposed on manufacturer, they will shift the burden to wholesaler. Wholesaler will shift the burden to retailer. Retailer can shift the burden to consumer. Yes or no? This kind of things you have learned earlier or not? And we also seen that in direct tax it is progressive in nature. As much as income you will have, that kind of tax liability you will get. Whereas in indirect tax, it is not like that. It is not progressive in nature. So if suppose 1 kg of, here if we will compare direct and indirect, so if we'll take the Birlas or Ambanis or Adanis into consideration, their tax liability is huge as compared to we common people. We don't have that kind of income. So if you have high income, high tax liability. No income, no tax liability. Likewise. But in indirect tax system, it will be equal to everyone. Suppose if you will buy 1 kg of salt, and as much as Birla will pay the tax, same amount of tax will be paid by a common man, a common people who have even though less income or no income rather. So these are basic difference. So when we talk about shifting of burden, or I can tell you with an example of, okay, I don't know whether you had been to industrial visit or not. Example will go like this. If it is your fees, it is charge on you. You are bearing those fees liability to the college. You are paying the fees to the college. But let us take an example of your industrial visit fees. So there are hotels, there are buses, they are charging those charges to the tour operator. Tour operator is shifting that burden to higher authorities of the college. Higher authorities of the college is shifting the burden to coordinators and HODs to the concerned department. Those HODs and coordinators is shifting burden to student, and finally student is paying that fee. Understood what is the basic difference between shifting the burden or what? Yes or no? Dear student. So basic understanding of direct and indirect tax is very much required. Now you'll say, as I have rightly stated, country like India, we should have such kind of tax structure because there is heterogeneity of population. We have different kind of population, different income groups of population. And that is why this direct and indirect tax, kind of structure is prevailing in Indian economy for Indian citizens. Okay, so with this, there are certain disadvantages also of indirect tax, which you will understand with an example. So we were knowing that if the tax is imposed on manufacturer, they can shift the burden to wholesaler, wholesaler will shift the burden to retailer, retailer will shift the burden to consumer. Agreed? And finally, the consumer will be liable to pay the tax. Now, what used to happen? The government used to go and collect the tax from manufacturer. The manufacturer simply used to state, sir, the wholesaler has not sold the product yet to the retailer. Until unless they will sell, they will pay the tax. I can't pay you the tax. Again, if they went to the, I'm talking about earlier system, to the wholesaler, wholesaler used to state to retailer, from retailer we have not collected the tax. We'll go to the retailer, retailer will say, sir, still it is lying in stock, I have not sold. How I can pay you the tax? So there were many advantages and disadvantages in both the tax system. Pros and cons goes hand on hand. So that is why there is a new tax regime which came into existence from 2017, which is very, very relevant. And there were many different tax also. Huge number of different types of tax which were there in India. Central excise duty, additional excise duty, custom duty, special additional custom duty, service tax, central state VAT, entertainment tax, octroi, luxury tax, tax on lottery. I mean, there were several different taxes which were prevailing in Indian indirect tax regime. Okay. So if these many different type of taxation will be there, now tell me how a businessman will be comfortable enough to operate. What used to happen if they used to comply one tax, they were unable to comply in other taxation system, and they will be caught by the government officials. Say for example, being a businessman, I have paid the excise duty. They will say, okay, excise duty aapne pay kara, but you have not paid the service tax. So I have paid both. Then they will ask, VAT is not paid. If I paid all three, they will say, custom aapne nahi bhara. If I have done everything, they will say, octroi mein aapki lacking hai, when the goods has been transported from here. And I mean, you will be, again I can give you an example. You must have seen many a times, you must have experienced that when we go and we drive the vehicles, two-wheeler का basically example लेते हैं. So what used to happen, जब हम गाड़ी लेके जाते हैं, हम ट्रैफिक हवलदार के पास अगर by mistake गाड़ी अटकती है, and if they wanted to impose the fine, so first what they will ask from all of you, what they will ask, first and foremost, they are going to ask the license. Agreed or not? If you have given the license, then they will ask, show me your PUC. PUC भी आपने दे दिया. Then they will ask, show me your insurance. आपने वो भी दिखा दिया. And everything is very perfect. Still, if he is in mind that they will be charged, then they will catch hold of you in any ways and means. They'll ask you just blow your horn, or there is a headlight or the side light. So better what we used to do, by saab ye lo 10, 20, 50, and let's move. And that kind of things were happening even in India. There were a lot of corruptions. Rather than keeping those many of records, businessmen used to very much comfortable to pay to them and continue their business. See, businessman is not so very, inclined to have these many records. They're not interested. Why they will keep so much of record? They want to do the business, they want to earn, and you must have experience. Now you will realize also. In direct tax, we have followed Income Tax Act 1961. Those provisions, those definitions, those sections are different. And when we will follow now CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST, all are different acts and all have different provisions, all have different sections. How much you can remember, yeah, being a businessman? And apart from that, you have to also remember, recollect everything about your production, about your HR, about your finance, about your machineries, everything. So there are many things which we had in lacking as per earlier tax regime of indirect taxation. Now this all has been got resolved, as someone has rightly stated. When we talk about indirect tax, Sonal has rightly stated, basically known as GST. But yes, right now also central excise is prevailing. Right now also custom act is prevailing. So these are many, few indirect taxes are prevailing, but there were more than 30 indirect taxes which has been clubbed together and given a nomenclature as Goods and Service Tax Act. How important the Goods and Service Tax Act is, just if someone has any of anything at their place in any of the receipt whereby you have paid, okay, try to get me the receipt and produce in front of all the students. You'll find there is the nomenclature of GST in the bottom of the receipt or on the top of the receipt, or somewhere, wherever you have made the final payment. Before that, there is something as CGST, SGST. देखो ऐसा कुछ receipt मिल रहा है, then just bring it to all the students. Just check any of you are getting. Anyone is having receipt whereby they have paid GST? Just check. It must be there in your wallet. Just try once. So I got two. I was expecting from you all, but you haven't given me any kind of receipt. I tried to got it from my place. So I've got two receipts. One is the Citibank, this thing, credit card bill, where on the top of the bill only it has been mentioned that GST and number. You can very much see. And there was Khadi and Silk. There is a shop. There also there is a receipt, and very clearly, I don't know how much clear it is. You'll find at the bottom of the receipt there is a GSTN number. Okay, and very clearly stated how much is CGST, how much is SGST, and grand total. So there is a cash memo with the name, state, GSTN number, and all these details is must. Okay, so today you have seen this kind of receipt, but there are many receipts which you have going to have with you which do not have GSTN number. I can challenge, but still you have paid GST on that. Okay. So if you have paid GST on that without GSTN number, that means you were not supposed to liable to pay the tax, but still you have paid. You can very much avoid to that extent of payment. Most of the time when you go to the highway, restaurant and all, and they are asking many times, not only this, there are many examples. They'll give you just small pauti, and on that also GST is included. Absolutely refuse to pay. And it's not 1 or 2%, 18% of the total bill. So GST is so very important for all of us, for all of our life on personal and professional note, but we have always kept it an ignorance. We never give an emphasis. I mean, when we talk about direct tax, of course, आप बोलेंगे कि whenever, sir, you are teaching any subject, you always state, even in direct taxation also you stated that this is very important for us, our personal and professional things. Yes, it is there. To start earning income, you will realize. You'll realize what I stated about direct tax. And indirect tax, even though you are not earning, you will realize. Today only I am giving you an assignment. Go and search many such kind of bills whereby you will find there is no GSTN number. And you have paid the GST on those products. You can simply refuse to pay. They cannot charge. And if they are charging, they should give you the receipt with GSTN number. Okay, that GSTN number will be alphanumeric number. Many a times they will have two different type of receipt. एक में appropriate GSTN number लिखा रहता है, एक में inappropriate GSTN number लिखा रहता है. Still there are many a times this kind of things is happening. So you need to be very particular. And if you put this kind of GSTN number to verify, immediately the detail of that company or that shop or that owner or that business will display on your mobile or somewhere, I mean, any of the electronic device which has internet connectivity. I personally got, waiver many a times. Why? Because I was aware about these facts. I used to ask, what is your exactly GST number? Why you have charged without that? Then वो दिखाते थे. Then I used to show them, अरे ये तो आपका है नहीं. So that is directly linked, that is directly named. Now it is mandatory, you will go to many of the shops. Before entering the shop, there is on the top of it GST number. So with these kind of measures, the corruptions, they used to evade the tax evasion is reducing in a large number, and government used to collect and in a position to collect huge amount of tax from the people at large, from the businessmen at large, and the government revenues is going up. So there are many advantages and disadvantages of both the tax structure. But as if now by having one GST, and if not, it's not only in India, across the globe, you go to any country, you will find this kind of tax structure. Even though they will raise the bill, in their bill there will be GST. Of course, with not this nomenclature of CGST, SGST, UTGST, but yes, there is GST. I have foreign bills also. So these were the basics of indirect tax. These were the basic learning of GST. Next time whenever we are going to meet, we will have how the GST came into existence, what are the different features of GST, and we'll continue further. Okay? Thank you very much to all of you. See you in the next lecture.